Next up, please welcome Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Wish, Peter Szulczewski.
Hi, everyone. So in an era of record store closures and runaway e-commerce successes such as Amazon.com and the Alibaba Group, you may think that giving a talk titled Failure of E-commerce is fake news, but I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes convincing you that you can both succeed and fail at something simultaneously in very distinct ways. And those are the reasons why Wish exists. It's the opportunity of those failures. So I'm going to talk about two categories of failures of e-commerce. One is a product failure, and what I really mean by that is the computer-human interaction. Not necessarily the things that you're buying, but how you're interacting with the technology and the product through whatever medium you're using in terms of actually finding and purchasing your product. The other is a demographic failure. Is that there's a certain subset of consumers that have been left behind. And those are, again, the only reasons why Wish is actually able to succeed and continue to scale today. So on the product failure side, we've seen a lot of shifts in the last 15 to 20 years. Right? So one is a platform shift. We've gone from desktops, then to laptops, and now to our smartphones. In a pretty drastic way. Then if you think about the consumer behavior, and the vast majority of time, when consumers are interacting with technology, they're not actually shopping. Shopping maybe constitutes, 1, 2, maybe 5% of their interaction with whatever technology medium they're using, probably less. The vast majority of times, consumers are either communicating or sharing or consuming information. And if you think about the last 15 to 20 years, for those of you who are old enough to remember, we've gone from pure text form of sharing and communicating and consuming information. Think of ICQ, MSN Messenger. Then we've gone through an image phase, which was Friendster, MySpace, and of course, most successfully, Facebook. And now the consumer expectation is video, right? So now we've gone to Snapchat, Facebook Live, Instagram Stories. And yet, when you really think about the human-computer interaction, when you're actually shopping for products, we've really gone from search on a desktop to search on a laptop to now search on your mobile phone. And that's been tremendously successful, as I mentioned. But it's also been a failure in another way. This is not the only way that people shop when they go to shop physically in brick-and-mortar stores. Like, you don't just actually run up to someone, a clerk at the store, and put in a search query. And if you don't like what you find, maybe you change your search query. So despite the 20-year evolution of e-commerce, we've gone so far in terms of how consumers actually use their technology for the vast majority of the time where they're sharing and consuming and communicating information. And not so much, at least in the United States and Europe, in terms of how we shop online. It still fundamentally starts with a search box. If you know exactly what you want, great. But if you don't, which actually constitute a large part of shopping experiences, you're kind of stuck. So we call this navigational shopping. And what it really means is Wish just opened up an office in Toronto. I don't really have a lot of winter clothing. I got to get some. I don't specifically know what I want. This isn't the type of online shopping experience where I can put in the search query. Like, I don't know the model and brand and make of the jacket that I want, but maybe I want, a black hooded or brown jacket under $50 in the size large. Right? That's actually a very difficult search query for typical online shopping experiences. Or I might be going on a fishing trip, and I might need some fishing gear. And I don't know exactly what I want, but I want to pick up a bunch of different stuff, because that's a category that I'm passionate about. And that's largely been a failure. So if you think about how this is done now, on a desktop, maybe you use a bunch of filters, but it's really messy. You typically end up with a wall of text experience, which is not even suitable for the mobile phone, because the screen is simply just too small. So we've taken a different approach. When we started Wish in 2011, internet traffic was moving very quickly to mobile phones. Shopping was not yet. And we thought that the change in the medium of technology would provide us with a big opportunity. At the end of the day, when users are opening up their phones now, they expect rich images, they expect video, they don't expect to have a lot of search input and text-based interactions. So what we built the foundation of Wish on is taking the experience that we've had at Google, Yahoo, Facebook, and other places that our team has worked at, and really focused on personalizing the experience and making it as easy as possible to navigate the more vague shopping experiences, where you don't necessarily know exactly what you want. So our way of shopping, which is much more visually appealing and entertaining, is on the left, whereas sort of the typical shopping experience of the successful Amazon or Alibaba platforms, online platforms, is on the right. But it's actually drastically different. And we found a really, really big opportunity in taking a navigational style, discovery-oriented experience for shopping on smartphones. And second, I don't think we would be here if there was a demographic failure, at least in the United States and Europe, where we're the most successful. So just starting off with a few statistics, 80% of US households earn less than $100,000 a year. In Europe, which is much larger for Wish than the United States, the median annual household income in the 28 countries that make up the EU is about 16,300 euro. And in the world, the median per capita income for at least 2015 is about $2,900. So there's a large set of consumers that now actually have smartphones, but they actually prioritize price. Right? If you're making 16,300 euro per year as a household, you're probably likely to prioritize price over the purchase experience, over logistics, over pretty packaging, even over reliability. And that created a large segment of consumers for us. We see a lot of e-commerce players focusing on the top 30, 50, 70% of consumers in the US. Maybe that distribution slightly skewed in Europe. But this opens up a large set of consumers that are now online and are likely to have smartphones that are largely underserved by current shopping platforms, online shopping platforms. So, not to get political, but last year, somewhere around the latter half of the year, I heard a common narrative in Silicon Valley, the Bay Area. And it was, well, I wouldn't vote for Trump. I don't know anyone else who would vote for Trump. Therefore, no one will vote for Trump. And therefore, he cannot win. And this reminded me of something. When we were starting Wish, the data was indisputable. It was very obvious that taking unbranded goods and pointing them at value-conscious consumers in the US and Europe, think about your average Walmart shopper, worked extremely well. In terms of the cohorts, in terms of the sales, the data was simply indisputable. But despite these metrics, other than some investors that are actually in the crowd now, you're excluded from this criticism, I heard the same thing. And it was, well, and this is, by the way, coming from affluent, multimillionaire investors living in Palo Alto, Menlo Park, and Atherton. And the narrative was, I wouldn't shop on Wish. They even said I've never even been to a Walmart, a lot of them. I don't know anyone that would shop on Wish, therefore no one shops on Wish. And this is a very faulty conjecture, which hopefully has been proven untrue. But at the same time, it proves the opportunity that we've had to grow. And when you think about why has Wish grown to shipping 2 million orders a day, it's largely because no one was actually taking this opportunity seriously. But because we took the data seriously, we saw that there's a huge underserved demographic of consumers in Europe, in North America, probably South America and elsewhere, that no one was really addressing. So, just as an example, not sure if your neighborhood looks like this, but I think this is a fairly typical zip code or neighborhood. This is a suburb of Miami. I believe it's zip code 33142. And this zip code alone, it's not a high-density zip code, but it actually does over $1 million a month in GMV for us. And if you look at the distribution of our sales, and more specifically our top 500 zip codes, you might notice that they're not concentrated around the most dense areas of the country. Right? So if I was looking at this for maybe a much larger e-commerce player, I would expect a lot more dots to be downtown New York, Chicago, Houston, San Francisco, Seattle. But we're well distributed over the United States. And this looks even more spread out when we look at where we actually get a lot of our sales in Europe. So when we think about the future of shopping and perfecting e-commerce, or actually fixing the failures of e-commerce, we think about the following things. Infinite selection. Well, we don't really mean infinite, but we mean close to infinite. I think right now we have about 70 million SKUs. And frankly, we're deleting more products than are actually being added to the platform. If you're going to have so much selection, you actually need efficient navigation. And search is a great mechanism for consumers that know specifically what they want. But I'll give you one more stat. And I don't know what it is for your e-commerce platforms, but for us, only 9% of the sessions that have a transaction in them also happen to have a search query. So the vast majority of purchases on Wish are purely what we call navigational. And when we started Wish, coming from a data background and bringing that Google methodology to frankly a screen that's much smaller, where the sessions are shorter, and where consumers or users have a lot less patience. For us, when I walk through a physical mall, 95% or more of the products that cross my field of vision, I just don't care about them. They're completely meaningless. For us, the objective was to actually flip that equation. So despite the fact that we have all this selection, what we wanted to do is create an experience where we understand the consumer so well and we understand the products so well, such that 95% or more of the products that cross the consumer's field of vision are somewhat relevant. And it's an ongoing it's an ongoing initiative and challenge, and I think it'll be ongoing for quite a while. But the more that we invest in data and intuition and algorithms structured based on that intuition, in order to personalize the recommendation experience, we're seeing continuing improvement in conversion rates. And of course, we would love to have universal coverage, right? So, okay, maybe you don't even have a credit card. You should still be able to participate in online shopping. You should still be able to participate in e-commerce. Maybe you're in Bolivia. Maybe you're in the Mideast. Maybe you're in Africa. We would love to have universal coverage and products for everyone so that everyone can actually participate in e-commerce. One area that we've been investing a lot in is logistics. So if you think about Amazon.com, which is the #1 e-commerce player in the United States, they've approached things from the following prioritization. The purchase experience is #1, right? That's the most important thing. Like, I want my package fast, I want it reliably, I want pretty packaging, and I want to trust that experience. Then it's product quality, and then I'd say it's price. Amazon is very sophisticated about pricing. They're almost never, out of the 5 to 10% range outside of the best place that you can buy things online. But their purchase experience is stellar. It's amazing. Our approach has been, let's find consumers, let's say in the US with an annual household income of 50,000 or so, which is, just 6,000 below the median, or somebody in the European Union that maybe earns 16,000 or lives in a household that earns 16,000 euro annually. Because their prioritization is very different. And maybe it's different than the people in this room. And it's really price is the most important thing because if I can't afford it, I can't have it. So it doesn't matter that you can get it to me the next day or you can get it to me in 3 days or you can get it to me in 12 hours because I can't afford it. It's more important for me to save €4 or $3 than to actually have an extremely pretty and reliable purchase experience. Then it's product quality, and then I think it's logistics. So we're approaching things from, we had the wide distribution, we had very competitive pricing, and now we're improving the purchase experience, we're improving the logistics experience. And then ultimately, I think if you have a lot of selection, and you have almost real-time competition between merchants, stores, for the consumer's eyeballs or for the consumer's transactions, I think these merchants should be able to compete on price. And whoever can provide, all else being equal, the product quality, the level of refund rates, the repurchase behavior, I think the best price should win. Our prices are still falling every month on a per item basis, and we love it because the more the prices fall, the higher the conversions go. So we would love for you guys to join us in this journey. Today, we're the #1 shopping app on both iOS and Android in the United States. Usually we're #2, just behind Amazon.com. We're in the top 3 shopping apps in over 30 countries. We're shipping over 2 million orders per day. And we would love for you to join us by either emailing us at merchants@wish.com and joining our booth, number 342, downstairs. Thank you.